On today's edition of Edge of Wonder, we discuss the first Great Awakening known as the Enlightenment and the many belief systems and spiritual giants that contributed to it, like Aristotle, Buddha, Shakyamuni, and yes, even Jesus. We pose such questions as, where was Jesus before he re-emerged at age 30? And why did some think that he and Saint Issa were the same person? We also discuss the process of enlightenment and historical accounts that may just blow your socks off as we reveal the true stories behind it all. Get ready to be enlightened. Now, here's your Zen friends Ben and Rob on Edge of Wonder.
Welcome to Edge of Wonder.
Our last few episodes have been pretty dark, so we want to balance it out with some light, specifically the topic of enlightenment. See what I did there? Light, enlightenment.
I think they get it, Rob. So we've done some QAnon videos. There's a lot of talk about the Great Awakening movement and how people are finally waking up to the truth.
Some of you may have wondered, how do those Edge of Wonder guys learn about this stuff? How can they discern what's the truth from a lie? Or how can I learn to do that for myself?
Well, to put it plainly, first it begins with having a core set of values that we can use as a lens to examine each piece of information that we find.
Then doing a ton of research, extracting the truth from it, corroborating where possible, and finally seeing how it fits into the bigger picture.
And also using your heart too when you're looking at these things.
Always.
That helps too. But in this episode, we'll dive into the topic of enlightenment, its meaning and history, and why the deep state, cabal, or the evil in this world doesn't want you to become enlightened, and how you can learn to enlighten through your own beliefs.
So we've already done episodes related to QAnon. Connected to QAnon is this Great Awakening movement. Unfortunately, the movement even had a growing subreddit which was banned earlier this year in September for being a crazy right-wing conspiracy theory. Then Reddit put up its Saturnian symbolism peace sign, and we all kind of peed a little, but we digress.
What this movement is really all about is enlightening to the truth. The thing is, Q is dropping breadcrumbs and is encouraging everyone to do their own research, and by this method, we are really waking up from the lies that we've been told by the mainstream media on our own.
But you might be thinking, well, Ben and Rob, the term enlightenment predates the Enlightenment period by an absurd amount of time. Don't worry, y'alls, we're spiritual beings. We'll be getting into all of them, and hopefully by the end, you can see for yourselves which jives with your way of thinking.
Yes, but don't take this as some kind of approval or denial of any form of thinking. Rather, let's explore and see what we find together. In the past, the Great Awakening referred to a more spiritual movement, a religious revival that impacted Britain and the English colonies in America during the 1730s and the 1740s.
This movement came and went rapidly at a time when secularism and rationalism was on the rise, and theism had hit a low point. You might be thinking, rationalism, that sounds great. Who doesn't want to be rational?
Well, rationalism literally pushed the idea that reason and knowledge are different than understandings that come about from spiritual development.
So what you're telling me is, I can't be rational if I have beliefs. Yeah, no. Rationalism led to, wait for it, communism. But that's a different episode, people, and oh my, we'll be getting into that soon.
So during this time, Christian ministers traveled around the colonies to preach the gospel and encourage folks that they should have a direct and personal connection to God.
The ministers also had people attend service in their home parish, furthering their message to make faith and spirituality more approachable and less of a formalized institution.
The takeaway to glean from the Great Awakening movement now and from the one in the past is that there has been a genuine desire and many sincere attempts by groups of people to discover the truth, not only in our world events, but also in life.
So on the other side of the Atlantic, the Enlightenment took off in the 18th century. Many philosophers emerged, such as Voltaire, John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, David Hume, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Adam Smith, Immanuel Kant, Isaac Newton, and Thomas Jefferson.
It was a period of uncovering and questioning what was experienced through the five senses and what we experienced intangibly, ethics and the soul.
There were two enlightenments. Some viewed Enlightenment philosophy in opposition with religion, encouraging people to think for themselves instead of acting on faith. This is largely the Enlightenment that took place in Europe, while others saw it as being able to think for themselves through a critical lens of ethics, which is more of the ideas towards Enlightenment in the US.
The Enlightenment was a big turning point for mankind. People challenged one another and debated the biggest issues, whether the meaning of life is to develop spiritually or materialistically.
There was this German philosopher named Immanuel Kant who studied epistemology, the theory of knowledge, aesthetics, and ethics.
We won't dive into all of his views, but Kant had some arguments around the purpose of life and enlightenment, and were compelling to many at the time and can still be applied to this day.
Kant argued that the purpose of life is to strive for virtue, or summum bonum, which is Latin for the highest or the supreme good.
Summum bonum is a concept that dates back to the Roman philosopher Cicero and even further back to the Greek philosopher Aristotle. Many philosophers believed that summum bonum meant living according to divine law and understand deeply what it means to be divine.
Kant also breaks down enlightenment in his essay titled, "What is Enlightenment?" That enlightenment is the decisiveness and courage to use one's own mind without someone else's guidance. Well, wait a minute. This is something we all need right now. So take a step back and read some Kant, people. It'll do y'all good. We touched on Aristotle and his central idea of summum bonum, the highest good, before. Kant said that it was virtue. What does Aristotle have to say about the highest good?
Aristotle reasoned that eudaimonia is the highest good for human beings. So what exactly is eudaimonia?
Did you just say edamame? All right, eudaimonia translates to happiness or well-being, but it literally means to have a good guardian spirit. It's the moral philosophy of practicing virtues in daily activities and using your wisdom that you've enlightened to resolve conflicts.
Maybe in some cases eating edamame can bring you that? But
I hope so. I'm gonna go have a bag right after this episode.
maybe not then. All right, diving deeper, what did he mean by good or goodness? Well, according to Aristotle, goodness is something common, universal, and one.
We interpret it as goodness being an objective trait, so that means you can evaluate how good your thoughts or actions are.
Given what Kant and Aristotle say, the purpose of life is, on a deeper level, to enlighten is to deliberately, independently, and courageously live a life of virtue.
Which leads us to Buddha Shakyamuni. That's not too far off compared to how Buddha defined enlightenment 2,500 years ago.
Before we go into how Buddha Shakyamuni came to enlightenment, we have to give you some context. Who was Shakyamuni and how did he come into spirituality?
So before Buddha was, well, Buddha, he was Siddhartha Gautama, a prince born around 567 BC into a royal family in Lumbini, which is in modern-day Nepal.
Before Siddhartha's birth, it was prophesied that he would become a great king or a spiritual leader. His father wanted Siddhartha to become a king and a warrior, and didn't want him to become this spiritual leader, so he surrounded his son with luxuries, women, and combat training.
However, none of these seemed to faze his son. His father also kicked out anyone who was old or sick from their land. So when Siddhartha finally ventured out from the palace doors at age 29, he came across an old man. He turned to his charioteer, Chandaka, who told him old age happens to all.
Completely shocked, he then encounters a sick man with oozing sores. Chandaka tells him again that everyone is subject to pain and illness.
His father wanted to shield him from any kind of death, but then Siddhartha mistakes a funeral procession for a parade and curiously wanders closer. Chandaka explains that death is the fate of all beings.
On his final trip out of the palace, he meets an ascetic. Chandaka tells him that this ascetic has achieved tranquility by letting go of his earthly desires.
Upon meeting the ascetic man, he vows to pursue an ascetic life on his own.
So let's fast forward now. Buddha has been enlightening for many years, but what actually did Buddha enlighten to?
He enlightened to the concepts of reincarnation, karma, and dukkha. Reincarnation is the cycle of birth, old age, sickness, and death.
Karma is the law of moral cause and effect. Finally, dukkha is the suffering that can be mitigated by removing attachments such as jealousy, anger, sensuality or desire to experience pleasure, and so on.
His enlightenment is defined as the process of identifying dukkha or suffering and removing the root cause, our attachments, and thus one can break free of this karmic wheel and end the cycle of reincarnation.
Sounds simple, but definitely not an easy thing to do.
Nope.
For those not familiar with Falun Dafa or Falun Gong, it is a spiritual practice that came out in 1992 as a free practice in China by Mr. Li Hongzhi, who founded it.
Falun Gong was a method that was practiced for thousands of years in private, but was brought to the public in 1992. Within a few short years, it caught on very quickly, and at the beginning, the Chinese government was even promoting it within China because people were feeling happier and healthier, and it was actually saving the country money on healthcare costs.
So what exactly is Falun Gong? It is a meditation and spiritual practice that is an advanced self-cultivation practice of the Buddha school system.
It's based on the universal principles of truthfulness, compassion, and endurance, in which one would assimilate their character to those qualities by using them to judge every action, thought, and intention that we have.
By doing so, we would then elevate our mind and body while at the same time strive to remove our attachments, such as our desires, anger, jealousy, and so on, with the goal to obtain spiritual perfection, enlightenment, or even divinity.
Many of the theistic philosophers from the West enlightened to similar life purposes as their Eastern counterparts, living according to divine laws or spiritual truths, and also belief in one true God or creator.
Enlightenment seems to be generally a positive thing for society and something that everyone should be striving for. So who could be against enlightenment?
Sadly, in 1999, the Chinese regime did a survey and found out there were over 100 million people practicing this in China. So China, being a communist state, totally freaked out. And this Falun Gong practice has been heavily persecuted in China since 1999, affecting over 100 million people. And let's not forget their families.
Falun Gong supports the belief in a divine creator with its universal principles of truth, compassion, and tolerance. Many people want to understand why it is being persecuted, but really the Chinese government is a communist regime that got to be where it is today through violence, lies, corruption, and its atheistic views.
Right. They view it as a direct threat to themselves, if you can kind of understand that.
I mean, doesn't make any sense anyway.
Well, it does, just because Falun Gong promotes traditional culture and it actually shows that culture to people.
Well, and we can kind of relate this going back to like the whole deep state cabal stuff, right? It's like they're doing all the satanic stuff, so everything that we're doing on the other side is a, they see it as a threat.
Right, exactly.
So it's kind of the same concept, I guess.
Okay, well, we know there's going to be a lot of controversy around this topic, but we're just the messengers here. So without going too deep into this, some people and even some Christians believe that Jesus also found enlightenment and obtained the way.
Before everyone freaks out, there is some evidence to support during his missing years that he traveled to India and was given the name Issa, meaning the best sons of men, and returned to spread his universal law truths of salvation.
This was all found in 1894 by Nicholas Natovich, a Russian doctor who traveled to Himis, India, and ended up breaking his leg and went to a nearby monastery for help.
Inside, he found ancient records of the life of Jesus Christ. He found a Tibetan translation of these scriptures and found over 200 verses in which these documents came to be known as the life of Saint Issa.
He was accused by many of faking these documents, and one of his biggest skeptics traveled to India just to expose this as a fraud, but instead it actually convinced him and proved the authenticity of the Issa legend.
Many of the verses in the scriptures do sound very similar to the words of Jesus when compared to the Bible, such as, quote, "Worship not the idols. Do not consider yourself first. Do not humiliate your neighbor. Help the poor. Sustain the feeble. Do evil to no one. Do not covet that which you do not possess and which is possessed by others."
Also, there is one where Issa taught that men should not strive to behold the eternal spirit with one's own eyes, but to feel it with the heart, and to become a pure and worthy soul. Now, of course, we're not saying Jesus was Issa. We would suggest that you look into this on your own. There's a lot of information about this, including a few documentaries.
But you know, the wise men did come from the Orient or the East, and I've heard a few ministers talk about how it's possible that these were monks that brought Jesus back with them once he was at a certain age, and these are the so-called missing years of the Bible.
Again, you guys should look into this on your own. We're just the messengers here.
But either way, we do know that Jesus was a real divine being who came here to save people, and by following his teachings, one can also enlighten on this path.
Also, I'll just add in something here that, we don't know the histories. None of us, even those of us who are really involved in this spiritual practice, don't actually know the histories. And if the divine creator arranged it that way, so what? Jesus was Jesus, right? And that's great. But anyway, we're not saying anything one way or another, and we hope you guys know that. Anti-enlightenment, which doesn't sound very good. Now, if there are such people who are against enlightenment, why are they trying to prevent you from obtaining it?
So for those of you who've been following us, I'm sure you already guessed what we're talking about here. I mean, the deep state, the cabal, these evil elements in our world. And for those of you who are new to our channel, in our past videos, we've covered the deep state, who they are, what their agenda is, and how they infiltrated every aspect of our lives.
The deep state are the secret government composed of elitists, globalists, and the Illuminati.
Yeah, that's YouTube censorship here.
Their goal is, of course, to create this new world order through chaos or total control over the populace, and their final act of eugenics, wiping out more than 60% of the human race. 60% is a conservative number, so the others can live a so-called better life.
Definitely check out our series on the deep state if you haven't already, although I'm sure many of you watching this are saying, we already did, but
go watch it again.
And,
So going back to enlightenment, Roger Richards had this great quote during our interview with him and Corey Good, where he talks about his journey to bring disclosure to people.
Many of us talk about this idea of we make contracts before we come here. We make agreements before we come here about what we're supposed to do, And many of us are in a space of trying to wake up to why we're here. When it's my belief that everybody that comes onto Earth is subject to the same rules of Earth, which is you're not allowed to remember why you're here. And that's a big part of it. And the journey that you're set on is to try and find through your own intuition, through your own higher self. And our mission here is to do everything possible to raise consciousness, on this planet.
But what he said is super powerful, and whether you're spiritual or not, this can apply to you. All of us can enlighten to what our journey is and then act on it, whatever your spiritual or religious beliefs are.
We're bringing up the topic of enlightenment now because it's more relevant than ever. We're inundated with information, both real and fake, and we want to empower you, our viewers, to figure it out on your own, as many of you watching here already are.
Then encourage others to think critically for themselves by showing them what you've found and discuss it. We believe we are all here for a purpose. Each and every one of us chose to be here, just many of us have forgotten why we came. So through spirituality, divine faith, or whatever your religious beliefs are, we will find our true purpose.
We recently got to 200K subscribers, and we wouldn't have been able to do this if y'all haven't shared our videos that you found with your friends and discussed the truth of these issues. We really can't thank you enough.
That is for sure. But really, we can't thank the divine light that is guiding us and leading us to spread this message far and wide. I mean, we keep saying that we're just the messengers, and we believe that this is either the path we chose before we came or what was just asked of us to do. Everything always works out when you put God, the light, or the divine creator's will first.
In either case, one of the best things you can do for another person, be it your family, friend, or acquaintance, is to spread the truth to them and encourage them to do the same for others with a whole lot of kindness.
if you generally want what's best for them and share it in a compassionate way, they'll start to see the truth and as well and feel that you really do care for their overall well-being.
Okay, so let's take a step back here. And speaking of all of this enlightenment and stuff, we would also like to highly recommend to all of you to go see this amazing show called Shenyun that's been traveling around the world.
Yeah, Rob and I have seen it in the past few years, and honestly, it's one of the best shows that we probably
It's crazy, incredible.
seen. It's so good. It's very inspirational, moving, and it makes you just feel really hopeful about the future.
Like the core of my being was shaken when I went to see this.
You just leave feeling very like, wow, I just feel
Different,
great.
clean, something
Yeah.
amazing.
It's
Anyway,
really good.
it shows 5,000 years of Chinese history through music, dance, and even martial arts. It also has elements of spirituality and even divine aspects all throughout, and you will definitely feel that.
Anyway, we'll put the link in the description below, and that's pretty much all we have for you today. But what do you guys think about all this enlightenment, and what does it mean to you?
Have you enlightened to something recently? Please leave a comment below, and always remember to comment, like, and subscribe for more, hopefully amazing videos.
Well, we hope you liked this episode on enlightenment, and as always, we'll see you out
On the edge,
of maybe enlightenment.
hopefully. Jeez.
Cut to real video. Blah, 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 blah,
I
blah,
like
blah.
this. Do that. Anytime there's a quote.
Oh, wait. Too much. Okay. Well, to put it... excuse me.
Well, the
All right.